to maintain international peace and security and sustainable development. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has called for an unconditional end to the Zionist aggression against Iran as the only solution to stop the imposed war. And the Iranian armed forces have carried out the 16th wave of retaliatory missile strikes against the Zionist aggressor, destroying several of its targets. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail from Radio Algeria International. Good afternoon. First in our news, the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, has received the President of the Constitutional Court, Omar Belhaj, at the letter's request, who handed him a letter asking to be relieved of the presidency of the Constitutional Court for personal reasons, which the President of the Republic accepted according to press release from the Presidency of the Republic. The Minister of Interior, Local Assemblies and Country Planning, Brahim Rad, has carried out, with agreement of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, a partial reshuffle in the course of Daira chefs or sub-governors at province level, according to a ministry press release. 44 executives have been promoted to Daira chief or chiefs. 58 Daira chiefs have been transferred, 6 Daira chiefs have retired, 8 Daira chiefs have been dismissed, and 3 have been transferred to other functions. The Constitutional Court has held a deliberation to declare the vacancy of the post of President under the chairmanship of the oldest member, Ms. Leila Aslawi. Ms. Leila Aslawi, the oldest member, will act as interim President of the Constitutional Court until the new President is appointed within 15 days of the notification provided for in Article 6 of the Presidential Decree. The decree specifies that a meeting of the Constitutional Court shall be held, chaired by the oldest member, to establish the vacancy of the post of President. Still in our country, the Speaker of the Council of the Nation, Azzouz Nasri, has hailed the policies accepted by the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, to establish the rule of law in a new and victorious Algeria, which guarantees and protects rights and freedoms. In a speech delivered at the end of a plenary session of the Council of the Nation devoted to the adoption of the 2 organic laws relating to the powers, organization and operation of the Court of Conflicts, and to the prevention and repression of the illegal use and the trafficking in narcotics and psychotropic substances, Mr. Nasri said that this is reflected in the Constitution of the 1st of November 2020, which aims to ensure national legal certainty by making the state responsible for drafting legislation relating to rights and freedoms and guaranteeing access to them. Algeria has expressed in New York, through its permanent representative to the United Nations, Ammar Ben Jammeh, its determination to work with all international partners to maintain international peace and security and sustainable development. Algeria's ambassador to the UN made his speech at a meeting of the UN Security Council on the theme of poverty, underdevelopment and conflict, consequences for the maintenance of international peace and security. Let's listen to what he said.
Algeria remains committed to working in collaboration with all international partners to address the root causes of conflicts and to maintain international peace and security. Today, as we approach the 80th anniversary of the signing of the UN Charter, we reaffirm our commitment to multilateral action for peace, not as an option, but as a genuine commitment for sustainable peace and development in the world.
The Algerian ambassador also pointed out that humanity was today witnessing major difficulties such as the unprecedented escalation of crises and new complex threats that cast a shadow over the socio-economic situation, particularly in developing countries. Mr. Ben Jammeh stressed that Algeria considers peace building to be an essential tool for post-conflict recovery, arguing that this approach makes it possible to avoid a resumption of violence, to consolidate national institutions, and to establish the principles of justice, reconciliation, and equality. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has called for an unconditional end to the Zionist aggression against Iran as the only solution to end the imposed war. In a message posted on social media, President Pezeshkian said, "We have always sought peace and calm, but the only way to end the imposed war under the current conditions is the unconditional cessation of the enemy's hostilities and aggression and guarantees of the definitive end to the adventurism of the Zionist terrorists." The Iranian president warned that if the Zionist aggression is not stopped, Iran will give harsher responses that will make the aggressor regret attacking the country. And Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has called on the United Nations Security Council to enforce its own Resolution 487 and safeguard the global non-proliferation regime following the Zionist military aggression and bombing of Iran's heavy water reactor in Iraq. The heavy water reactor in Iraq, a facility under full IAEA safeguards and under construction in strict compliance with the technical specifications agreed in the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action to eliminate any risk of proliferation, was bombed in broad daylight by the Zionist entity, Araghchi said in a message posted on social media on Friday morning. Saeed Bougazi has more details.
As the Security Council meets today, it is imperative that it uphold and enforce its own Resolution 487, adopted unanimously in response to the Zionist attack in 1981 on the Iraqi nuclear facility, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi stressed. He continued, the text of this resolution is unambiguous. Any military attack on nuclear facilities constitutes a breach of the entire IAEA safeguards regime and ultimately the Treaty on Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons. It applies not only to past action but also to future behavior, establishing a clear legal standard against the use of force or the threat of force against nuclear facilities under safeguards. The Iranian Foreign Minister warned that if the Council fails to act, it will have to explain to the international community why its legal principles apply only selectively to such a crucial issue. It will also bear ultimate responsibility alongside the Zionist entity if the global non-proliferation regime were ever to collapse. On 13 June, the Zionist entity launched a series of attacks against Iran, causing martyrs and injuries. For its part, Tehran retaliated by launching missile and drone attacks on several Zionist targets as part of a retaliatory operation against the aggressor named Honest Promise 3.
And while Iran has stepped up its response to the Zionist attacks, calls for de-escalation and restraints continue around the world, and several countries and international organizations have urged the UN Security Council to take urgent measures in line with its responsibilities to ease tension in the region. Iran has always expressed its commitment to diplomatic means, but has stressed that it will continue to exercise its right to self-defense. And the Iranian armed forces carried out Friday morning the 16th wave of retaliatory missile strikes against the Zionist aggressor, destroying several of its targets, according to media reports. The new series of attacks took place as part of the Operation Honest Promise 3, launched in retaliation for the Zionist aggression launched on June 13 against Iran. Yesterday, Tehran stated that the country will continue to exercise its right to self-defense and will make the Zionist entity regret its attacks against its soil. Calls for de-escalation and restraint continue, with several countries and international organizations urging the UN Security Council to take urgent measures in line with its responsibilities to ease tensions in the region. And Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has appointed Majid Khadimi as head of its intelligence services, the first new agency reported. The appointment was made by Revolutionary Guard Commander-in-Chief Mohammad Bakpour just days after the martyrdom of the organization's former head Mohammad Kazemi and his deputy Hassan Mohajab on Sunday during Zionist airstrikes on the Iranian capital. And the president of the Iranian Atomic Energy Organization, IAEO, Mohammad Islami, has called on the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, to immediately end its inaction and condemn the Zionist attacks on Iran's peaceful nuclear facilities, according to the Iranian news agency Fars. He made the remarks in a letter to the IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi following the Zionist attack early Thursday on the heavy water research reactor in Iraq, Khondab County, Marzaqi or Markazi province. And Chinese President Xi Jinping has underlined that a ceasefire must be an urgent priority in the Middle East, where the Zionist entity continues its aggression against Iran, recalling that communication and dialogue are the appropriate means to achieve lasting peace. The parties involved in the conflict, particularly the Zionist entities, should cease their military operations in order to avoid a spiral of escalation and firmly prevent the spread of war beyond the region, the Chinese president said in a telephone conversation with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin. And in the Middle East now, the Zionist occupation forces escalated their ongoing military offensive in Tulkarem Governorate in the occupied West Bank early Friday morning, launching extensive raids into several towns in the eastern and northern parts of the region. The assaults involved widespread home invasions, property destruction, detentions, and the deployment of large numbers of infantry units, armored vehicles, and military bulldozers. Said Bougazi has more details.
In the eastern town of Bala, Zionist occupation forces carried out house-to-house raids after forcibly breaking down doors, causing deliberate damage to the interiors. Multiple vehicles were vandalized with windows smashed and tires punctured. Local sources reported that the army seized several homes, converted them into military posts, and positioned snipers inside and on rooftops. Residents were forcibly evicted and barred from returning for a week. One citizen was detained following a raid on his home. Nearby, the towns of Annabta and Kafr Rumman also witnessed similar incursions as military units spread through residential streets, conducting searches and patrols amid a heavy military presence. In the northern part of the governorate, the town of Atil was raided by a large force of military vehicles and infantry soldiers. Dozens of homes were stormed, their contents vandalized, and several were taken over by the occupation army and turned into temporary bases after evicting their residents. Zionist soldiers also targeted commercial shops, breaking down doors and destroying property while heavily firing stun grenades. Military bulldozers accompanied the forces during the attack on Atid, using earth barriers to block off roads and damaging key sections of the town's infrastructure. In the nearby town of Dir el-Ghussun, forces closed the town's main entrance with earthen mounds and sealed off a road, isolating the area from neighboring towns.
And with this, we come to the end of this news bulletin for today. Time now for our weekly program, Tourism in Algeria, with my colleague Jamal Salmani. As for me, I'll meet you again tomorrow for first edition of our news bulletin. Until then, stay tuned to Radio Algeria International, and bye-bye for now.